Hey, you guys, you are hanging with Langan. How are you today? So glad you could be with me. I have a great guest coming up. He is the owner of Broadway Comedy Club, Greenwich Comedy Club in New York City. This guy gave me my start in New York City, and I'm so grateful to him. And we'll be taking your comments, your questions. But first, a little bit of business. I love to see your comments up on the .com, on StreamYard. That's what I'm using right now. So what I love for you to do is I want you to go to StreamYard.com /, here we go, Facebook. There we go, look. Just go StreamYard.com / Facebook. Click on the blue button and I'll get to see your comments right there. Of course, I can also see them on my phone. Some of you have been asking me, oh, I got so many great questions for Al Martin. And whether you work in New York City or you don't, there's a lot that he has to offer. He's been in the business for a lot of years, and I'm going to introduce him in a moment. But just before that, I'm getting you guys all set up here. What I want you to do is go to the group page. It's Hanging with Langan. It's on Facebook. It's on the .com. So just go to Facebook groups and Hanging with Langan. You'll see it there. I want to give a shout out and a big thanks, this little commercial break, to Robert Miller. Robert Miller is the owner and founder of Silver Streak Limousine, serving the New York City, New Jersey tri-state area. Not only will he take you to and from the airports, he will make sure your minor child gets there safely, your animals, your pets. He'll take them wherever they need to go, and he does concierge services. Tell him Maureen sent you. Hanging with Langan, 201-679-8808. Great hands with that fellow. Love the guy. And if you want to support the show, I have a ton of Don't Make Me Hate You products. I don't want to hate people. They make me hate them. I'm a victim. Get the mask. People are digging these masks. They're hysterical. Or the shirts. You just go to molangan.com and it's all there for you. And you can choose so many cool things. I'm very excited by it. All right. I am excited that he's here with me all the way from Florida, even though he lives in New York, but he's very successful. He's a mogul. Al Martin, the author of Did It on a Dare, How I Created a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. Hi, Al.
Hi, Maureen. How are you?
Good. Look at you, you big shot at your house in the beach, huh? Who's better than you? Buying your house on the backs of people like me, Al Martin.
Yeah. I've been exploiting people in comedy, so they say.
I think so you say, according to the Amazon review. I just ordered your book. I'm excited to read it.
Thank you.
Well, yeah. So you just wrote the book during the virus.
You know what? I've been taking the notes on it. I've been thinking about it. I've been, really working to eventually write a book. It's very hard when you're operating two comedy clubs. But COVID came and it closed down the clubs and it gave me a lot of spare time, so I said, let me do this.
Well, I did not know that you were a comic before you were a club owner. I had no idea.
You never knew that?
Never knew that.
Wow.
Weird. All my years of knowing you,
What year did you come into comedy? In the late 90s, early 2000s?
Late 90s, 98.
So I was when I started in '89. I started as a comic, doing open mics like every other comic at the time, and got no stage time like every other comic at the time. It was very hard to get stage time. So I eventually started a little, worked my way into a one night a week room with Tim Davis. Do you know Tim Davis?
Yeah, Tim Davis, if you're just tuning in, Tim Davis was the first, he was a comedy club manager at Stand Up New York. And my first class I took was with Tim Davis.
Okay. So before his Stand Up New York days,
yes,
I worked with him at New York Comedy Club, which became New York Comedy Club. We were doing one night rooms, and we were doing them in places like the China Chalet in Lower Manhattan, Houlihan's on 42nd, the Eagle Tavern on 14th Street and 9th Avenue, and that was my start. And it's in the book when you get it, but basically Tim and I parted ways business-wise. We still keep in touch from time to time now,
You were doing one-nighters performing or hosting or
Well, as a
cooking.
comic, the deal I had, it was myself, Tim Davis, and a third partner, Eddie Stanley,
Oh,
and we eventually wound up on, and the whole story's in the book, on 48th and Second, and we had a place, and we called it New York Comedy Club, and we started one night a week on Saturday. Saturdays were so good, we went Friday and Saturday. Then we went Thursday, and then before you knew it, we were 7 nights a week. And the basic deal I had with Eddie was that he would work the club Friday and Saturday. I would work the club Sunday to Thursday as the running the place. And Friday and Saturday he would do it, and that would give me a chance to go out on the road. So Sunday to Thursday, I would put myself up on stage at New York Comedy Club and get as many spots as I could, and then on the weekend I would hit the road.
God, the you know the routine, huh?
Well, I'm one of the few people I have to honestly say in New York. There are a lot of them throughout the country, but in New York, I think I'm other than Chris Mazzilli. Chris Mazzilli also did some stand up.
Chris Mazzilli is the owner of Gotham Comedy Club in New York City. And again, he was,
Correct.
because people are listening to this all over, and I have a lot of people in the Bay Area too, working the comedy clubs here watching today. And I think people can learn a lot, get a lot of insight because, everybody wants to work New York City. They want to know how you get in on New York City. I tell you how you get in on New York City. You call Al Martin when you've been in it for 3 minutes and go, Al, how do I work your clubs? And he yells at you. And you get intimidated and he scares you and you're like, why, what have you ever done for me, huh? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, how can we work together? And like, okay, and then I talked you off the ledge. You're like, yeah, come down, produce some shows, let's see what you're doing. But you know what, after that, nobody treated me better. I produce a few shows for you, like maybe the end of January, then the beginning of March, and I put pro shows together. Even though I put bringers, I also paid people to come and headline, and I hosted. After that, I was on your radar anytime I called in for avails, and because of
Absolutely.
what I loved about New York Comedy Club, that's where the first club. What I loved the best about that club is you weren't as good as your last show, meaning you weren't judged on bombing the night before. You were judged on your professionalism, showing up and working like a dog and doing your best that you can. And you gave people 20 minutes. Where do you get that in Manhattan?
Yeah, it's difficult. We had a little different model than some of the other clubs, and a little offbeat than what the other clubs did. But New York Comedy Club in those days was an underdog. When I first opened New York Comedy Club, Catch a Rising Star was still around.
Yeah,
The improvisation was still around. So we sort of had to find our own way. And the comic strip was very successful at the time. And you had Caroline's, went from the small place on Chelsea down to the South Street Seaport, then uptown to Times Square. So,
yeah,
you had about 6 or 7 clubs and then we came into the market, and we just had to find our own niche. And it became known for a number of reasons. It became known for a lot of opportunities for
yes.
comedians that would have never gotten opportunities at other places. We
That's true.
started really expanding into the African American comedy shows because up until that time, the shows were homogenous, one kind of show, 9 o'clock. Everybody was on it. They'd have maybe one black comedian, maybe one female comedian, a guitar act, maybe, and then a bunch of white stand-up comics. So we brought a little different diversity to it at the time, and it was not popular with some of the other club owners. Uh, they felt that things shouldn't change, and we brought in Latino show. I just saw an ad that we did. Somebody reminded me of it. It was a female show. It's on my Facebook page. It was called Ladies with Cleavage. I don't know. I don't want to get the name wrong.
Ladies with other things beginning with C. I know.
So basically, we did a female show. We did the first gay and lesbian show in New York at a major comedy club. So we really did break it all open. And at the time, I got a lot of criticism almost 30 years ago when we were doing this. But today, you could go to every major comedy club in the country, and they have chocolate sundaes, or Latino laughs, or all sorts of stuff like that.
Well, that's true. That's true. So tell me some of the people. Al Martin, owner of Broadway and Greenwich Comedy Clubs in New York City. Originally, your first club was New York Comedy Club, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
And
where
I
I got
sold that in 2014.
I do miss that club too. But now Broadway is fantastic. I don't work Greenwich, but I've worked Broadway. And Broadway, it's always a packed house. You have more than one room. You have two showrooms. One's a cabaret room. Always get great audiences. Come back to me, Al. Al disappeared. Was it something I said? Don't mess.
No, I got a phone call in the middle.
You're popular, guy. Tell me some of the people who've come through, and we're going to get to your questions and comments because some people have questions for you, Al, tips and advice for comics. And please post them if you have them, and I'll scroll back through. And hey, start a watch party. I'm told that's a big deal. Like, you got to start a watch party, but that's what people do. You just click watch. It says start a watch party, and then you've started it. That's how easy it is. Tell me some of that's it. And then people, more than one person gets to watch it. Your friends are watching what you're watching. Anyway, let me ask you this, Al. Tell me some of the big names, aside from Maureen Langan.
I was just going to say Maureen Langan.
Who come through your club?
Oh, I mean, Jim Gaffigan, Lisa Lampanelli, Damon Wayans, Tracy Morgan, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Wanda Sykes.
Shows, huh? You did have the African American shows.
Yeah, I was looking at one of the shows a while back. Like, I kept track of who would appear in a lot of the shows, and one of them, I couldn't believe this lineup. And I tell the story. We had on the lineup scheduled Wanda Sykes and Tracy Morgan. Damon Wayans came in to do a guest spot, and then this little kid was brought in by a manager, and the manager says to me, "Look, this guy's a very good actor, and he's starting to do stand-up." And when you hear that, or think they're going to be horrible, right? And all the other comics was sort of like ribbing him a little bit, giving him a hard time. And it turned out to be Kevin Hart. Wow. So, imagine Kevin Hart, Tracy Morgan, Damon Wayans, and Wanda Sykes on the same show.
Well, Wanda's my all-time favorite. When people say who they love,
I mean, a great person too. She's a really nice person.
So smart and so funny. She has, people say you can never do a rape bit. And of course, rape isn't funny in and of itself. Rape is not funny. But she does a great bit, and I'm paraphrasing it, about wishing she had a detachable vagina, because then she could go out jogging at any time of night, and the guy jumps out of the bush. She's like, "Oh, I left it home. It's detachable." Or then she goes out to a ball player's room at night. She's like, "Well, I have it home." It's a very smart, funny joke about women's vulnerability when they're out alone by themselves at night. And I always thought, when people say, "Oh, you can't make it funny," you can, because it's as funny as it is. It really talks about how frightened you are when you're by yourself as a woman at night at different situations. Love her. Tell her she can call me anytime, Al. If you see her, say Maureen says hello, come on by her Facebook Live show. You guys, okay, let me ask you this, Al. You're not alone. I got to call you out on the table on this, or floor, whatever you call people out on. The city clubs, not just you, every single club, people don't get paid well at the comedy clubs. Why is that?
Well, I think it's a couple of reasons. One, if you're working the comedy clubs in the city, you're doing less time. In other words, if you work on the road somewhere, you're expected, when you close a show, to do 45 minutes at least. Some clubs have a 2-person format where they have a 15-minute, 20-minute opener, and then they expect you to do an hour closing. Right. So the amount of time you do is a lot less. And then the comic really kind of runs from spot to spot and can do 4 or 5 $80 spots in a night on a weekend. Right. And they're making like $400. But so the thing that it's a shorter time spot has something to do with it. And I think in Manhattan, if a club has 5,000 square feet in Boca Raton, Florida, just to point out one, because I know I had one there.
Oh, look at you.
Okay. Yeah. You're paying one rent.
Right.
In Manhattan, you're probably paying 6 or 7 times the rent.
Right.
and then the clubs in Manhattan were never really built to have to be in a situation where someone's just going to make a living doing that club. They were more or less places where comedians could work out their material and do their material, and then make the big money on the corporate scene, the cruise ships. It was sort of seen as a college for
Well,
comics.
yeah, I can see that. Let me ask you this though, the industry. Oh, and somebody's asking me, Dana saying, please, start a watch party, you just share and then click start a watch party. We're not talking about right now when everything's on lockdown. We'll ask you about that in a moment. But the industry used to come and watch comics and pluck them for sitcoms and go to the different clubs. Was that still happening or not so much?
Yeah, I still get calls all the time. So and so, we'd like to scout some acts. Would you mind if we sit in the audience? And the most important thing they're concerned about is making sure their drinks are calmed, and we make sure they give us a business card. And probably a good thing for somebody to do is just print a business card and then just call the comedy clubs and say, oh, I'm coming in tonight. Do the same thing for music clubs and you'd never have to pay for anything.
Look at that tip. You're getting a tip from Al Martin. There you go.
Yeah, there's a tip. Invest $25 or $30 in a business card that says you're so and so, and then just show it at the door. Oh, I'm industry.
This is Al's book. It's called Al Martin Did It on a Dare: How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. Look at that picture. It's hysterical. It's on Amazon and you can pick it up there. I just ordered mine. So Al, let's talk about people. Oh, let me do a commercial break, please.
Okay.
Commercial break. Hear ye, hear ye. You guys, thank you. You've been asking how you can support the show, and I'm very grateful. You guys have been very generous. It's very nice. You can go to paypal.me/Mo Langan or Venmo @Mo Langan. Also, too, I've been hosting a lot of corporate events. I'm seeing them, keeping things moving, because people on the Zoom and on the .com, they don't know how to keep things moving. They get nervous. They're corporate people. They haven't been on it. They don't know how to. Anyway, so you can reach out to me for that. And also, I have my whole entire line of Don't Make Me Hate You products. That's a mask that says Don't Make Me Hate You. And we have T-shirts. Look over my shoulder. I have product placement. And see, Don't Make Me Hate You. And we have a ton of stuff. Onesies, coasters, clocks, even shower curtains. So do that. And a big shout out to Robert Miller, Silver Streak Limousine, supporting the show this week. Tell him Langan sent you, and he'll give you a nice discount. And really, most trustworthy guy on the planet. Love him and his wife. So, people, you want some tips? People are asking me. Damien wants to know, what is your biggest pet peeve that comics do on stage?
Okay. First of all, don't screw with my microphone on stage. Don't hit yourself on the head with it. Those microphones are $100 a piece. Bam! How many times I see comics go, oh, let me tell you something. Bam! And they hit the head on the comic on their head. That's one. Two, annoying things that comics do. They come 20 minutes early for their spot. Yeah. They yap, yap, yap in the green room. Oh. You tell them, oh, it's your turn to go up. And they say, oh, I got to run to the bathroom. Why don't you run to the bathroom during the 20 minutes you were yapping away? Now we got to stall on stage till you get out of the bathroom.
Bullshit, Al. That's bullshit. I would not put up with that.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I did try to strangle myself once with the cord at Broadway Comedy Club because I asked the youngins in front, the boys and girls, do you know what a suffragette is? And they looked at me like I was abstract art, and I wanted to kill myself. What about, in terms of material, have you seen the tone of what works and doesn't work change over the years? The style?
I think the style that most seems to work, if you want to go long-term success and head more towards something that might be a one-person show or can translate into a life story of a book or a movie or a sitcom, is to just speak to your truth as to who you are. And I think you wound up doing that with talking about your life as a sanitation guy's daughter.
Garbage man, and my mom's an immigrant. Right.
And that's the way to go. And I still think that's the best formula because when you look at TV shows today, in any year, it's Everybody Loves Raymond. It was pretty much about Ray Romano's
Life.
real life, and Brett Butler's Grace Under Fire, and I'm dating myself with some of the acts, but it's no different today, when some of the young comics today are getting sitcoms. I'm thinking about Jermaine Fowler had a sitcom that was, I thought, really funny with Judd Hirsch and
I don't know.
woman from Married with Children.
Peg Bundy
Kate,
lady?
yeah, Peg Bundy lady. So Katie
What's her name,
Seagal.
Peg Bundy lady? When somebody's, you know who she is. I get told I look like her, which I,
Katie Seagal.
yeah, Katie Seagal. All right. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, yeah, people, do we know what happened to Brett Butler? That's what I'm being asked.
Last I heard about Brett Butler, she was off her show and was sort of like occasionally doing a comedy thing, but sort of meditating out west somewhere.
That's what happens. You got to meditate out west at some point in your life. That's just what happens to people. See, I want the sitcom before I come out to the west to meditate.
Well, my references too, they're getting a little older, and some of them are, like I turn around and I go, "Where's that comic?" And somebody said, "Well, maybe they're retired, or maybe they're gone."
Al, too, though, yourself. You're not like that because I know the diversity of comics you put on the stage. And I have never worked your club where there's that one woman thrown on the show. I've never, Lori Kilmartin, who is a writer for Conan O'Brien, worked your club constantly. And
you wrote the forward for the book.
Did she really?
Yes, she did.
Oh, Lori Kilmartin wrote the forward for his book. Oh, wait, does Al Martin have a book? Wow, I wonder what the name of the book is. Could it be? Oh, here it is. I'm ridiculous. Did it on a dare. How I Built a Comedy Empire, 30 Short Years. It is on Amazon. Somebody asked me to ask you this, but I had it on my list of things that you talk about in your book. I know your daughters, and one of your daughters is transgender.
Correct.
Dina, beautiful. And one of the things I said to you early on, because I'm sure for any family, that's something that one has to wrap their mind around, whatever that is. And I'm curious to know your journey with that, because all I've witnessed toward Dina has been love. And she says to me that you have been an incredible father to her.
Well, it's like, it's sort of like what Chris Rock said in one of his bits once. He goes, "Oh, I love these people that walk around and say, I'm a great father." Like, what, are you supposed to get an award for that? Yeah, you brought the kid in the world. You should be a good father. What a definition of a good father is could be a little different to people. But I felt I knew at a very young age that Dina was, at the time, David was going to be gay, and, it's a road where nobody ever believed me when I said it, but I felt it like when I would try to play with G.I. Joe or try to get, G.I. Joe, she wanted to play with Barbie. When I wanted to play with wrestling action figures, she wanted to play with a dollhouse. So, she gave me the clues, but nobody would ever listen to me.
Oh, yeah? You were the one who telling people and they're not listening to you.
Yeah. Forget it. My mother still doesn't realize. She's 93. It is what it is with her. Yeah. But so then Dina finally came out to me at the age of 12. And a little funny, interesting story, if we have a second for it, the way it all came down. About 3 or 4 days before Dina came out to me, I'm feeling very strongly like she's ready to talk to me about it. And I'm feeling very strongly that she is more than ever gay. And basically what happened was our tradition would be we would work at the club together. And then like our bonding thing was after the show, we'd wind up at a diner and have a bite to eat. So we're sitting in the diner and all of a sudden 3 couples walk in, 3 guys with 3 smoking hot women, and my head, I was single at the time. My head turned, and they were gorgeous. and I saw Dina's head turn, and she like her eyeballs popped out of her head, and I started thinking to myself, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe Dina is straight. She saw the same thing I saw, and then 3 days later she comes out, and I had no problem with it. I accepted it. It was something I knew already. And
Comes out as what? Comes out and says what? Like
as gay, she came out as gay, and then I said, I got to ask you something. Remember when we were in the diner 3 days ago? Your eyeballs popped out when those three couples came in. And she goes, yeah, weren't those three of the hottest guys you ever saw? So I saw three hot women. He saw three hot guys.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
I remember that this is where I have this is where I need to be educated. Like, for example, I know some trans people and I knew them before they transitioned. So I knew Dina as David, as a teenager, a teenage boy. So when I so just say like before the transition, and I'm talking about the David I knew at New York Comedy Club.
Right.
He was 13. Do I say I remember when I first met David, or do I say I remember? Like, I don't know.
I think it's probably best to say I remember when I met you.
No, I know, but I'm just talking about, like, I worked for a person who's trans, but I worked for her before she transitioned.
Oh, okay.
Will I say, oh yeah, I worked for Al back in 1990, but you're not Al. You've transitioned to Al.
I haven't really. Yeah, it's a very valid question. Years later, most parents only go through the one coming out. I went through a second one, and again, I was getting those very strong vibes, that she might possibly be transgendered. And I think I kind of might have mentioned it to her, like, if at any level you feel like you're a woman trapped in a man's body, like, don't hesitate to talk to me about it. She might not remember that, but I'm pretty sure I might have had that conversation. I wanted to make it as easy as possible because I did a lot of reading on this stuff, and I saw that if you ignore it or if you don't support your kid on this, especially on the transgendered stuff, they become very alone and very isolated. And if they don't think they have support from their own family, they got nowhere to turn. They can either wind up on the streets, they can commit suicide. It could be a whole bunch of horrible, horrible things we're going. And I'm a comic to begin with, so my mind can get kind of dark to begin with. It's like,
right. Oh.
Dina finally did come out to me. And as a comedian, my first thought was, so let me understand something. You were David, gay David, who liked men. And she said, yes, that's correct. And I said, now, as David, you're going to become Dina and a woman. And she goes, correct. Now, as a woman, are you going to like men or women? And she goes, men. So let me understand this. You're a woman who now likes men, so you're straight.
It's a riddle. It's a riddle.
It's a riddle. So
it's a riddle. And
so now my kid is actually straight. And then she looked at me like, oh?
Is she still with that lovely fella she was with?
Yes, she's with James. Yeah. I think now they're in their third year. And I can't tell you how much I'm happy that she's involved in a role. That's the one, being transgendered is very tough because, like, you think about it, like, are you what kind of person would dating has got to be rough because is it a straight guy that's going to be interested in you because now you're transitioning to a woman? Is it a guy? And, it's sort of for a while until you figure it out. I would think it's sort of a never land. And the fact that she met, that was the one thing that was always kind of breaking my heart with my kid, is that I never really knew. I wanted her to find love, and I wanted her to find that. She had friends, but I wanted her to experience love, and she finally has. And that really makes me happy,
I love that, and that makes me love you because that's all we have is that heart to heart for people. And if you don't give that, it's useless. There's somebody. Dana says you don't change who or what you like. If she liked lasagna before, she'll like lasagna after. That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, she definitely likes lasagna with a lot of sausage.
Iconic. Boom, boom, boom. No, but I've made mistakes with pronouns and I've gotten yelled at. We're just all human. We're doing the best we can. I have an
Yeah,
acquaintance who transitioned, and I only knew her before she transitioned when the pronoun would not have been she. So I had not been in person. We were only on the phone, and I said he by mistake a number of times. And I'm like, and she got so mad at me. I'm like, listen, you had your whole life to get used to this. Give me 20 minutes. Just give me
yeah.
20 minutes to read.
That is a common. Yeah, Maureen, you're right on with that. That is a common thing, and Dina would get very angry. And I had to one day just explain to her, give me a chance,
Yeah.
and more me. As I said, don't even bother with your grandmother who's 93. She still calls him David. I just did it myself. My grandmother still calls her David, and
Does
I
she?
don't think she ever will. And it's not because she's trying to be evil. She's just this is way beyond the person that was born in 1927.
Okay, I get that they can't. I guess she can't. I get that. There's generational stuff. Believe me, the things that come out of my father's mouth from the 40s, 50s Bronx. I get it. Not in this topic, but forget. They'd be like, I don't know, whatever. You're happy. You're not bugging me. Okay, good. But it is mind-boggling though and God bless your mom, 93 years old, and through these crazy times. Still, but looking at Dina is like the epitome of like womanhood and femininity and sexy. I mean, wow. I mean, really, bombshell. So I just go to the club. It's just gorgeous. But so your mom looks at Dina and still calls her David? Like,
Well, not only does she still call her David, but my mother once asked me, "When did David get boobs?" I'm like, "How are you not putting it all together, Mom?" Well, I think she just doesn't want to deal with the
well,
complexities.
it's a lot for people. But you said something too that Vic DiPotato, great comic, his son is gay. And Vic says this on stage. Vic, this intense, angry Italian guy on stage, who's the softest gentleman off stage, said, listen, I got a gay son. You know what? And people go, oh, you're right. What do you mean, am I all right? Of course I'm all right. Because you can either come out of the closet or you can hang yourself in the closet. Come out of the closet. And I always, when the first time I saw him do that on stage, I was like, wow. Because he's not a stereotype of this Italian guy. He's a real human being, a fullness.
He has something in common with your dad. He was in the sanitation business.
I know. Huey Langan from the South Bronx. He's in the hospital now in New Jersey, and he says to me, I call him like, Dad, you're right. He's this big, tough, Bronx strong guy who's, not feeling so well right now. And I go, yeah, let me tell you something. As soon as this blood stuff, so I stop bleeding, whatever they're saying's happened to me inside, I'm making a run for it. Make a run for it. So Al, what's the future? What's happening with us moving ahead with comedy? Because these tables need to be close together. We need to be like basically on top of each other.
Well, it's going to be a road. It looks like entertainment and comedy in Manhattan is in what we're calling stage 4. So stage 1 for New York City is June 8th. 2 weeks later, the 22nd, if all goes well, we move into phase 2. Sometime around July 6th, we move into phase 3. And again, if the metrics are down and New York's hitting its numbers for 14 consecutive days, then sometime in late July, early August, hopefully we are in opening mode. So I think opening can take place anytime from late July to early September, depending if there's any spikes in numbers or New York screws up with the hitting their medical metrics and stuff like that. So that's what I'm starting to pivot to now. The first part of all of this was lining up financing, talking with my landlords, having an open conversation with them about the future and, reduced capacities, because it's almost definite we're going to have to open at some kind of reduced capacity.
Come back, Al. Somebody calling you.
That's really, am I there? I lost you for
You're
a second,
back.
I think.
You're stuck with me. You're back. Back.
Maureen?
I'm here, sweetheart. I need you to come. You'll be back. He'll be back. That's Al Martin. Just keep talking. We'll put your book up. I'll do a commercial break, Al. Little commercial break while we wait for Al. You guys have been awesome. If you want to support the show, I've been bringing this to you Monday through Friday at
Hello?
Pacific. Come on, Al. I'm doing a commercial. I'm being heckled. This is like being heckled when you're doing a comedy show. So I'm doing the shows for you Monday through Friday at 3:00 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And if you want to support the show, you've been asking me how you can do that. You can check a buck. I say check a buck, paypal.me/Mo Langan, Venmo @Mo Langan. You can also, I have a store. I'm very excited about my store. It has all these Don't Make Me Hate You products. Do you see the shirt over my shoulder? That's called Product Placement. And people are loving them. I have a million different types of t-shirts. Don't Make Me Hate You, tanks and classics and all of that. And we have the masks. These are fantastic. People are digging the masks. Don't Make Me Hate You. I have shower curtains, coasters, baby onesies. Baby. My friend Bob, he's my graphic artist. He says the items pictured are not the actual size. He's a wise ass. We got all this, notebooks, clocks, all of it. So go check it out, you guys. Support the show. And also, I've been hosting corporate events. So a lot of you, not as a comic, but as the broadcaster journalist, keeping things moving and keeping your speakers flowing and being the conduit and the glue, multi-day events, daily, one-day events, whatever you need. Oh, look who's here. It's Al Martin. Al Martin laying down on his Pompano Beach on the beach, living off the backs of comics like me. Listen to me, Al.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did okay, though.
I'm all right. Yeah, because I worked for Bloomberg before I got into comedy. Freaking idiot.
That's true. It had nothing to do with comedy,
But
I'm sorry I got knocked off by the thunderstorm outside. So,
no, I know. We'll see what's going on moving forward. It's going to be weird doing comedy with people spread out, but it'll be like a late night. It'll just be like,
yeah, Maureen, it used to be an advertised great show, comics from HBO, MTV. Now it's going to be, we do thermometer checks at the front door. We're socially distant. Where everybody's in mask and gloves, because you're going to have to reassure the customers and the comics that it's going to be safe to come into the venue. So. Yeah, I just want a whole bunch of protocol.
I just want the mic clean from the disgusting comic who went on before me. That's what I want. I just want to bring my own
on that front, we're really, right before we closed, we kind of came up with a good 2-mic system where there would be one mic in the green room that we would be sanitizing.
Oh, very good.
And the next comic up would hold it. And then the comic on stage would bring the old mic back for resanitizing for the next comic. So, but we're fully also encouraging comics to get their own microphone. Wow. We're going to be sending out a link for a microphone that is compatible with our sound system. It's only about $39, $40. So most comedy clubs will accept that same one in their system, and you can have your own mic. The only problem I'm concerned about is, comics are not really sometimes that experienced at plugging in the mic, so you're going to get things broken. But I don't know, this is something we're just going to have to work through.
How hard is it to freaking put a mic in? I mean, some comics are so evolved, and some like, you got to be kidding me. Really put the stupid smelling mic in the mic. How hard is that freaking?
Oh, it could be very hard for some of them,
I'm going to have to approve who you're booking. You, Rich Brooks, we're going to sit down. Rich Brooks.
Have a long chat with him. I gave up the booking a while back because I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And Rich is good at it, He's pretty good at it.
A lawyer turned comic, turned dad, and still comic, and he books the clubs too.
And fully capable of running a comedy club. He was the general manager at Stand Up New York.
I started with Rich.
There
I
you go.
started with Rich. I did shows with Rich, and he was producing shows in Midtown Manhattan at the DoubleTree and stuff like that. You
He
know.
opened on the road quite a bit for Jim Gaffigan and was his road manager. So
Oh, I didn't
there
know.
isn't an element of the business that he doesn't know.
No, he's a great guy. He's been very good to me too, Al. So listen, before I let you go, I want to do a little another shout out to your book. What's the name of the book? Oh, here it is. Al Martin,
I love this.
there. How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. You didn't say how you did it on a dare.
Well, very simple. I was dating a girl who was doing open mic comedy. And one day she wanted me to watch her. So I watched her in a club. And she was an open micer. What can I say? It wasn't very pretty to watch.
But she was hot. But she was hot.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
And afterwards, she asked me, "How did I do?" Women are apt to ask certain "how are" questions. How do I look? Did I gain weight or lose weight? And how did I do on stage? And the answer to all of them are, "You were great. You look great. You were great. You're terrific." Deny, deny, deny. So I'm sorry if that comes off bad, but that's survival. So basically, I said to her, "You were great about 10 times in a row," and she wouldn't let up. No, really, really. What do you think, really? So finally, I got fed up and I said, "You know what? You suck. You were absolutely horrible. I couldn't take watching you."
That's the Al I know.
And that led to a 10-minute fight. And it was a 10-minute fight. We argued left and right. We were going at it with each other. And then finally she said, "If you think you're that funny, why don't you go on stage next week? I dare you to go up." And from there, I took the challenge. I worked on a 10-minute set. And you'll read in the book what a disaster that was. So,
And then it led to the club owning, and here you are.
Yeah, the whole story is in there.
Did you get laid that night? That's all that really matters.
No, because of my honesty, I did not.
Do we
I
know
did not even sleep in the same bed.
Do we know who she is?
No, she's nobody famous. She's out of my life a long time.
Would I have known her making the rounds, or no? That was before.
No, not at all. No, this was in 1989, 1990.
Well, here's what I do when with my Sicilian lover. When he says you look great, I go, like, what specifically? What specifically? You got to hold him to it. Michelle Ballin says hello.
Hi, Michelle.
She's so funny. She said, "I don't need to carry any more crap in my purse. The hell with the mic. I'll get COVID." That's the gig me and Al did. I don't know which one she's talking about, but we love B-Dog.
I used to love, back in 89, maybe she doesn't want me to say the year, but she was doing open mics with me. And I can specifically remember her and I having some writing sessions over at, I think, at the Eagle Tavern. We would write together. She and I would funny.
Together. She and I would go out for cocktails together after the comedy club.
She's great. She's so funny on and off stage.
Ay, what are you talking about? I'm going to die. My purse, it's full of Mike. Ay, she's a regular. She joins me a lot on Hanging with Langan. She knows we all love her. A question for you, Al, though, before we let you go. Tough times, we know this. Tips, advice for those who say, "I'd like to get into comedy." I mean, is there still a future in stand-up? Tips for them, what would you say? I would say go to law school. What would you say?
Yeah, I would say go to law school. But honestly, I think that we've had disasters before, and eventually stand-up, this whole Zoom thing is going to go into the toilet. It's a Band-Aid for now to get up on a stage and do something. Doing stand-up on the back of a pickup truck is just a Band-Aid. The way this is going to work again is in front of an audience. I think at some point we come up with a good medical regimen to handle COVID, or a vaccine a year out or something. And then, we just got to all hang on for, 6 months to a year. And I think once people feel comfortable really going out again, because there is a vaccine, or if you did get the virus, there's a cure for it, then people will go out again, and people will,
I did hear
the art.
Broadway isn't going to, at least the last I heard, that Broadway was staying closed through Labor Day.
Oh, forget it. They're not even opening then. They're going. In my opinion, I don't think they open till next year. Honestly,
New year. The new year. I agree. I think you're
you
right.
know, because they're going to be asked to open at minimum, at best 50%. And how do you socially distance in a theater at 50% and still be able to pay the actors union scale, the musicians union scale, the electricians, the carpenters, all the people it costs to open a show? You know,
It's
it's
a lot.
not. It's going to be very, very rough, and I don't know how they do it.
And the only one other thing I wanted to say to you, because somebody was asking me about working clubs. Tips for newbies. There are no tips other than getting your ass up on wherever you can, even if it is a flatbed trailer in a parking lot.
You know, listen, I tell comics like this. It's very similar to baseball. Derek Jeter did not wake up in the morning and be Derek Jeter. It was 20 years of Derek Jeter 15 years of Derek Jeter getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, playing catch with his dad, playing catch after school, going to little leagues, being in the minor leagues, playing college ball for little to no money till Derek Jeter became Derek Jeter. Same thing. Any comic you look at on stage right now, whether it's Wanda Sykes, whether it's Lisa Lampanelli, whether it's Dave Attell, Colin Quinn, every one of them started somewhere in open mics or started somewhere where they were getting their ass kicked early on till they became the person that they are.
And you got to be brave enough to bomb. You have to. You have to. How many times we've walked off stage going, "Oh God, no!" And then those times get fewer and fewer, and then you find your audience, and you know how to handle different things. It takes a while.
One of the great things about the book is it has a lot of Al Martin golden rules of comedy.
Really? Okay, go ahead.
Have your yellow pen ready to highlight Al Martin's many golden rules of comedy that will help you succeed in stand-up comedy.
Well, you know what? You helped me succeed a lot by all the stage time you've given me over the years, Al, and I am very grateful. And I did my dry bar taping. I hope it should be coming out in the fall. You know, you have to work like really clean because of the Mormons, the dry bars in front of all the Mormons. And I remember one night I taped it in February and it comes out in the fall, but I called Rich. I go, because you have to get new muscle memory. Just like we were talking he, she with the transitions and the pronouns, you just need to get new muscle memory. So I was tweaking the work, same jokes, but it's muscle memory. So Rich was so great to me, Brooks. He gave me so much stage time to tweak it. And it was the last night before I'm going to go for the taping. And there was a manager I didn't know there. And she's like, okay, so we're going to have to cut your time because we're running late. And usually I'm like, sure, whatever you need. I'm professional. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't. This is my run through before my taping. She was like, okay, well, let me call Rich and see what I can do. I'm like, please, you know, because it's important to you. And then she goes back, she goes, oh, Rich was like, of course. I told her she could do this. I'm like, she didn't know me. I promise you I never do this, but I was in a panic because I just had it, we're nuts when we want something right. I'm looking forward to getting our asses back on the stage. And thank you for everything.
It'll happen. And in some sort of weird way soon. And then hopefully the long-term goal is, you know, to get back to normal with a vaccine or a cure for this. And, you know, I think we'll get there. It's just how many clubs will get there, how many comedians will still be around to do it. That's another story. But I think there'll be a road at the end of all this.
I think there will be. And hey, you guys, thank you for tuning in today. Monday, I have Jimmy Tingle joining me.
Oh, I love Jimmy. You know, Jimmy had a one-person show at Broadway.
Oh, he did it at Broadway?
Yeah, he did it at Broadway.
Jimmy Tingle, you guys, if you don't know him, and many of you do, of course, he's brilliant. He's funny. He ran for governor of Massachusetts, did quite well. Was a commentator on 60 Minutes too. I worked with him in Winnipeg at the festival there. We had such a great time. He and I were on they put you on a lot of shows, which is great. It was one of the best experiences of my life. One night, a great little funky place, but they put us, it's like on the X late night show. Now, Jimmy and I aren't X rated, but hey, it was a great time. But the woman ahead of me is dry humping a stool to tell a story about screwing a guy. And then he's like, Maureen, I wish I could do a Boston accent. Maureen, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do? And then I hear Maureen Langan. I go, good luck to you, Jimmy. I have no idea. I'm on. So like we did great, but it was just so much fun. Those back stories that you have when you're a comic.
I was so happy because Jimmy worked the early days at New York Comedy Club when we were on 48th and 2nd in the early 90s. And then to hear from him years later, and that's the sad part. You probably know this. When you work a room or you work in a city, you know a lot of the bookers for many years. And then eventually bookers change and they go on. There are new bookers at New York Comedy Club, new bookers at Stand Up New York, new bookers at Dangerfields. The only bookers that have been a constant in the New York scene have been Linda Rowe at Dangerfields, Esty over at the Comedy Cellar, myself, or the people working with me who've been doing it for years. And I think, and Chris over at Gotham, everybody else has moved on to other stuff. So I get a lot of comics that have great credentials come to me and say, Al, I called the booker over at Stand Up New York. They don't know anything about who I am. They asked me how many Twitter followers I have, stuff like that. And, a guy like Jimmy Tingle, I know is an incredible, one of the premier, if not the premier political comedians in the country.
Brilliant.
In a year where politics is running rampant,
right.
And
brilliant man. Well, that's what happens too. Like people will say to me from out of town, hey, Maureen, and I would help any comic I could help, unless they're a piece of human crap and they're so untalented. You know what I mean? But anybody, of course, we help each other. I've had comics, Maureen, could you set me up with some gigs in the city and Manhattan? I'm like, I'm not holding out on you guys. I mean, I had a good friend come from South Africa who's brilliantly talented and came up with Trevor Noah. And I called around and said, hey, if you guys, anybody can give him stage, this guy's brilliant. I mean, really brilliant. But it's hard. You can't, you're doing enough to get yourself on stage,
Yeah. I mean, like at least 50, in the last 5 years or 7 years, 50% of the bookers have changed in New York City. And
I know.
And the ones that are not changed are very tight on who they book and maybe haven't changed their lineups in years, so
it's weird, but you know what? This is part of the game. This is part of the struggle. I wish your mom good health. I wish everybody good health. I'll give one more shout out to the book. What's the name of the book? Oh, here it is. Did it on a dare. How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. It's now on Amazon. But Maureen, we're really interested in your math. Well, there it is. Don't Make Me Hate You. You can just go to molangan.com. My store is all there. Do you have anything else? Yeah, you mean like t-shirts? Sure, I do. Don't Make Me Hate You. But what if we don't want a t-shirt or a mask? You mean you might want a clock or a coaster? All right. You can have one of those. Just go to molangan.com store. We will see you guys on Monday. As always, thank you for being here. Share, share, share. All my interviews will be up. They're always up on Hanging with Langan page on Facebook. I always upload them to YouTube. And of course, you can scroll my
Are you able to send me a link?
I can send you, yes, of course.
Send me a link and I'll put it on all my social media, Broadway Comedy Club, Greenwich.
Thank you.
TikTok, Tutu.
Yeah, what is the TikTok Pallywalk? I don't know what any of
it. I think that's for young people, and any older person my age goes on there, they make fun of me. So,
Hey, listen, all the best, and please tell Dina I say a big hello.
Okay.
All right. All right, you guys. Have a great one. Mwah.